Love. Airlines, Tesla, Netflix, Spotify, Coke, and other observations. Thoughts on natural advantages and disadvantages of various types of companies. I'll make you a deal. You get a lifetime of free Netflix, but you never get to go on an airplane ever again. Or you get no Netflix at all, and you're allowed to travel by air at the regular price. Or how about this? A lifetime of free Coke, but you never get to go to the hospital again. Or no Coke, and you get the same shitty healthcare seemingly everyone else does, at the regular price. Perhaps some of you are afraid of flying and would welcome such an arrangement, but I doubt the majority of people would actually forgo access to things like hospitals and airplanes in exchange for entertainment or tasty beverages. And yet, when have you ever heard someone say they love an airline, or a hospital for that matter? We love the Bahamas, and we hate being sick, but we don't feel any sort of affinity towards these essentials. How come? Modern medicine and air travel are unfathomably incredible developments. I mean, think about it. Why don't we love them? Why don't we wake up every day and say, oh my God, I have electricity. I love the power company. Not a single person would die without Netflix or Spotify or Coke or M&Ms. And yet we love these things. Some businesses just have bad branding baked into them. Everyone wants to be in the Bahamas, but nobody wants to go and sit on a long flight to get there. Airlines are bad businesses to begin with, thanks to heavy regulations and capital intensity. But to make matters worse, it's regarded as a necessary evil to traveling. We love traveling and we hate flying. And boy, does it show in the numbers. Netflix, on the other hand, pays people to create a vast assortment of entertainment. And the end result is people love Netflix. Of course, we also adore our actors and occasionally our directors, but ultimately it is the Netflix logo which we now associate with great entertainment. Name me one time you saw the Delta logo and felt anything but dread. Hospitals are a place you go when things are going terribly. Someone you love is sick, or you're sick, or your wife, or you, if you're a lady listener, is about to squeeze a person out. Sure, there's a beautiful post-birth moment, I'm sure, but show me a woman who's excited to go give birth at a hospital. In fact, when it's all over, all you want to do is leave. If I say, oh, I'm at the hospital, you'll say, oh God, what happened? Coke, on the other hand, is a treat. It's something you get as a reward. What better association could there be? Dinner with family and friends, sports games, outdoor barbecues, these are the moments you engage with Coke's products. No disease and no TSA agents. Now, this doesn't mean only buy businesses that have a positive association baked in, but rather, my aim is just to point out how very peculiar it is that we love Coke more than the hospital, Netflix more than Delta. I'm here today to pontificate. If you don't like pontification, go listen to another podcast. It's all good. But I think it's a subject that is both relevant and interesting. I bought Amazon stock after the first time I had a package stolen out of the hallway of my old Brooklyn apartment. It was an $80 bottle of aged fig vinegar, which is a long story, and I was devastated when it was stolen. I contacted Amazon, and in 5 minutes, they had another one on the way, free of charge. This blew my mind. I had read about the customer obsession in Bezos' letters, but I experienced it firsthand that day. I had this feeling that I love Amazon. Of course, I still had a lot more research to do before buying the stock, but that was the catalyst of epiphany for me. I understood that Amazon wasn't just another delivery service, but that it was a customer satisfaction machine. My point is simply that tailwinds can come in all shapes and sizes. When Delta Airlines spends $15 billion on planes, they get $15 billion worth of planes. And that's about it. When Netflix spends $15 billion, they get a bunch of shows and movies, each of which creates one more I love this moment for the viewer. Most movie studios don't usually enjoy the same second-order benefit, likely because the actual viewing experience happens somewhere else. Coke goes to the ends of the earth to ensure that its products are available, well, at the ends of the earth. So when you arrive in some distant country and you don't speak the language or recognize any foods or drinks and you're exhausted from your flight, you see that red Coke and you know exactly what you'll get. And you're happy. Businesses that make people happy have a basic tailwind behind them, when that company isn't being competed into oblivion anyway. And businesses that serve a basic function that no one wants to engage with, even if they have to, healthcare, air travel, energy, taxes, etc., may have a lot more trouble establishing dominance in the minds of their customers. And hey, don't get me wrong, I love looking at these types of companies. Usually the ones people love are priced accordingly. It was hard for me to find a good price point to buy Chipotle, Coke, or Spotify. One also has to consider that something like food has essentially infinite options and people's tastes may change. How many times has my fiance suggested we mix it up? So this is far from the first quality I look for in a business. I'll take a real moat like ASML over Chipotle any day. And the price and economics, of course, play an enormous role. I'm an ASOP guy in the end. I'm always just looking for more birds in the bush than I have in my hand. Apple is an interesting case here. I don't know that any electronic device users love their device more than Apple users love their iPhone or Mac. I'm not sure it had to be that way, but Jobs and Ives clearly knew a thing or two about consumer behavior. That love, coupled with the Apple Universe effect, has created a sort of loving moat, if you will. Amazon's next-day delivery, enabled by a shitload of CapEx, allows them to provide absurdly good service to their customers. Let's call this infrastructure-enabled love. But it's not a hard and fast rule. No one really loves Microsoft, and yet it's a gigantic company that's given investors an equally gigantic return over most periods. Another interesting case study is Tesla. I've been watching car commercials in between TV shows for my entire life, and yet, as Teslas began flooding the streets, I saw very few, if any, Tesla ads. Why? Because everyone was already talking about them. Elon's genius status, coupled with the newsworthy features of their vehicles, created a wild sort of self-propulsion on the marketing front. Joe Rogan invited the CEO on his show, the most watched podcast on earth, a bunch of times for free. See, usually technology companies impress a small group of tech people, and the rest of us could kind of care less. Does my mom know about ASML's new high-NA EUV machine? Or the new Apple M3 chips? No. But she knew all about Tesla without ever watching an ad. And that is a pretty cool case study for a technology-induced marketing campaign. Spotify playlists are a fascinating thing. Spotify doesn't make music the way Netflix makes movies. Instead, Spotify has made itself the go-to platform for music listening. Of course, by now, they've expanded into podcasting and audiobooks, but remember when it was just music? What feature was everyone using? Playlists. They are custom and annoying to replicate outside Spotify. That is not an accident. Music is personal to people, and after they've made 80 different playlists on Spotify, they don't want to make new ones on Apple Music to save $1 a month. Is it a wide moat? Not really. But it's how Spotify earns itself a place in its customers' hearts. I love Eagle Materials, but it's unloved. Fortunately, I obviously feel the company is needed and the stock is perhaps too unloved. But no one's making memories with grandma because of a gypsum mine. I'd also say most of my portfolio today is devoid of this type of love tailwind. Only Netflix and Amazon possess such a direct and benevolent consumer relationship. Every other company I own produces or enables some necessary technology or material, and it's likely I've gravitated towards the lesser known and misunderstood simply because I believe these companies often trade at a discount. Still, for any company which is consumer-facing, I think it's fundamentally important to understand how customers feel about the very product or service that company provides. I'd rather sell burritos than colonoscopies, although you could argue colonoscopies are a downstream pick and shovel on the burrito market. It's also important to recognize how durable or repeatable such a consumer identity really is. Taste change, people change, and competition is fundamental to capitalism. People like Apple Music, but I'd argue they feel a closer connection with Spotify simply because of how highly customized and personal it is. Even Spotify's auto-generated playlists give users the feeling that this is something special. I began this year by selling Apple when it hit $250 a share. This wasn't the easiest decision, but my returns were more than double, and I just had too many concerns, primarily about valuation. But the day I started researching Apple was the day I told some girl on my rooftop in New York that I had an Android, and she said, ew. I realized in that moment that it's not at all far-fetched to suggest it's harder to get laid with an Android. I mean, I can't imagine anything as powerful as that. I'm not sure I have too much more to say on the topic, so I'll shut up now and get back to my 10Ks. I'll talk to you later.